What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Ro, coming back at y'all with another banger, man. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, man. And today we reacting to John Forte on his liquid cocaine arrest and the events that led up to that moment. I think he was the dude that was from the Fugees. You feel me? If I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, man, drop a comment down below. Chat, let me know. You feel me? So tune in to this whole video, man. Stay tuned.
In 2000, you were arrested at Newark Airport with $1.4 million worth of liquid cocaine?
Mm-hmm. Gee, that's a lot of liquid cocaine. Like, what was he doing with that? I didn't even know that was a thing, chat. Let me know if y'all knew that was a thing. That's crazy, man. This boy. And that's John Forte.
How did you get from the Fugees to that moment, and can you describe and walk us through that moment?
Sure. So Fugees, huge success. Mm-hmm. Plaques awarded. I'm being groomed for my solo project, which comes out in 97.
You're talking about Poli-Sci.
Poli-Sci.
Yeah.
Poli-Sci. So that comes out. A whole bunch of things happen within the label system. My product manager I don't know if she's fired or transitioned the week before the album comes out.
My boy dragging away, the album comes out. You feel my boy was lit back in the day. That's probably why you feel me sounding like that. But let's get back to it.
It is that it's a brick, right? Critical acclaim, commercial disappointment. All in all, around 80,000 copies sold.
So yeah, 80,000 copies now is a huge success.
Right.
So the industry's completely changed.
Right. 80,000 copies, after the score, after Clef's, Carnival and Staying Alive is a brick.
Right.
So for me, instead of kind of looking in the mirror and self-examining, saying, well, what can we do to right this ship? I didn't look in the mirror at all. I looked everywhere except the mirror, but the mirror. And I said, everyone around me from management probably down, as close to flow failed me, right? And in what would be my first real disappointment, arguably in life, right? Like this brick where somebody's like, well, no, you know what? You're not as talented as you think you are. You're not as smart. You're not as fly. You're not as ...
Right. And Poli-Sci had DMX on it.
DMX, Fat Joe. Like so for me, Poli-Sci was like formulaic. I was like, I'm ticking
production
boxes.
Was slick.
Yeah.
The video was crazy.
Right. Like we had budgets.
Yeah.
Right. Like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like at the end of the day, and I remember showing up to, these studios at 10 p.m., but I was supposed to be there at 6 p.m. and then not leaving until, maybe, so thinking that I was, in my zone, in my mode, but I created that album in a vacuum. Like I created that album in a vacuum. I didn't ask many people for ears or what do you think. I was like, I know this is fresh, right? So I brought people in, but I didn't do too much outreach. So that that happened, and I went up to the label and I voiced my frustrations.
In fine fashion.
In fine, eloquent, inoffensive fashion.
Right.
Which led to me getting dropped from the label. Which I thought was, again, divine intervention. I said, that's fine. You want to drop me? That's cool. I'm going to do this on my own, And as I tell this story, I said the universe conspires to help the dreamer, right? It gives you what you want. So that coincided with me meeting an individual who had an operation, and he said, well, hey, you're connected to a lot of people. I would love for your people to meet my people. And that led to me involving myself in that operation, being a middleman, connecting him to couriers to transport whatever needed transporter. And that house of cards fell. It wasn't me signing up to that to all of a sudden change professions. I wasn't like, all right, well, now I'm going to do. I was compartmentalizing and justifying it because I was going into the studio. I was using whatever I had to. I'm going to make this.
This is how much your art meant to you.
It was. I have to create, and I've got to get this out. So I'm going to take these risks, and I took those risks, and one day at Newark Airport when I went to pick up two of the couriers, which was something that I'd never done up until that point. I was a middleman. I was hands off. What I didn't realize as I was picking them up was that I was going into a controlled delivery. It was a sting. They were cooperating with the feds. I didn't know. Our conversations from the time that they were apprehended were recorded. And when they picked me up, they just bagged me. Everything stood still that day. And then, everything changed.
That's crazy, man, for you to do that, be across the world, have your albums, and then you just get lightweight set up because he said he was the middleman. Like, bruh, they was already trying to pick you up. They was waiting for him at the airport. That's crazy, man.
You got sentenced to 14 years.
14?
168 months. The reason, and it's important. Well, I say that because that's how it's worded in your sentencing. Right. So you've got to do that calculation, kind of Johnny on the spot. And if you're pretty good with math, the judge doesn't say 14 years. The judge says, your guideline range is 168 months to 210 months, and so. So I was on the bottom. I was on the bottom end of my guideline.
What's that like for people who have never faced that? The idea. At this point, you're on the other side of it now. But at this point, what was that like to be like, okay, for at least 14 years, I have to not do what I want to do, and I have to be limited in this way that most people are never going to have to face. What was that? How daunting was that?
I didn't surrender to the idea of
that's crazy.
Being incarcerated for 14 years until I was probably 3.5 to 4 years into my sentence. And that was when I lost my last appeal. Because up until that point,
still fighting. Right. Fighting. I remember that. I was
fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're part of that fight. Yeah. So people reached out and letters and so I had people from the time I was sentenced. Shout out to Carly Simon. Activating networks on my behalf to galvanize support to bring me home. But it wasn't until I lost my writ of cert, which was 2255, if I'm not mistaken, that takes you up to the Supreme Court. I know that somebody would call me out in the comments if I got this wrong, so I wholly apologize. But it wasn't until I lost my writ of cert for the Supreme Court, and I was speaking to my then girlfriend, and she said, did you hear what I said? And I said, yeah. You said we lost, and she was in tears. She was like, but I'm on a phone line, and I just heard that we lost, and that 10 other dudes who waiting to get on the phone to speak to their friends and family.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy, bro. You feel me? To be on your phone with your girl. Be crying talking about y'all lost and you got to do 10 more years. Oh yeah, she's done. She's charged. I never even knew that. John Forte got arrested for 14. That's crazy, y'all.
That was and at that point I was like, oh, so my release date is 2014. Right, but by that point, doing time wasn't new to me. I was well into the sentence. So I had my community, I had a sense of self, I had my programming. There were things that I was doing in the name of coming home. But what that realization did for me was it fomented a resolve to come home with something to show for the time. I said, well, if I'm not coming home in 2014, I'm not going to be in the same state or the same condition that I was in 2001.
That's right.
When I entered. And that coincided with me speaking to Professor Charles Ogletree, who was at Harvard, who was a mentor to me throughout my incarceration.
Lawyer.
And Professor Ogletree said, John, I want you to apply to Harvard. And I applied to Harvard. They did not accept me. And I called up Tree and I said, Tree, I went through the whole process. Like a person came from Harvard to interview me in the visiting room, and we did the application, and the spring came, and mail call happened, and there was a rejection letter from Harvard. So I called up Tree, and I was floored. I said, you know, I did this. I did what you said, and they still said no. And it was Tree's encouragement that, no, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. So I applied to the London School of Economics, and the London School of Economics accepted me. And I began my degree with them, which would be in politics and international relations. I really gave a shit about the world when I was removed from it, when I was told I couldn't participate in it.
That's crazy, y'all. That's crazy, bro. I had no idea that my boy from the Fugees got arrested, man. But I'm glad the man out, man. Prayers go out to him and his family. That was crazy, man. That's why y'all don't do nothing that you ain't, you feel me, don't know what the time is, the consequences and all that, man. Because life is important, special. You feel me? Go get your degree. Start a YouTube channel. Do what you gotta do, man, to stay out the trenches, man. You feel me? God bless everybody, man. And thanks for tuning in to this reaction video, man. Hit that subscribe button and see you on the next video.
Like about time with a cup full of lean and a Dutch. They say I'm selling too much. Blue faces got bunch. They need rapper for lunch. Lunch with the hood. Niggas can't take no punch. Pockets too heavy. That's why I walk with a hunch. They say they know me. I did not know, son.